For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. I want to start by giving all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Rachak, Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations unto the tabernacle of David, though for elect that are scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. So you go back and listen to the lecture that the Secretary of War had with those war generals, as well as Donald Nero Trump. You know, you read between the lines, they're basically saying, fuck your Constitution, fuck what's contained in the Geneva Convention, fuck if you are an American citizen, a civilian. There's an enemy from within. And we're going to train our soldiers up in these dangerous cities, you know, these democratic ran cities. So that would mean that even citizens can be casualties in this imposed war from within, which is very unconstitutional, and is also a violation of international policy. So that's literally the dragon speaking. That's the dragon talking. When you heard them up there speaking to those war generals, they were speaking as a dragon. So now the direction that this administration has taken, which we know that they are under the influence and under the control of the Zionists, a line is being drawn in the sand, and now people have to choose a side, which basically means that there's a divide. Yahushua said it best. A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. So I want to play this segment. This is from MSNBC, and this is they had a retired general that came on and basically, you know, told it like it is. That the military cannot take up arms against civilians. You know, what about the Posse Comitatus Act? It's like they don't even care anymore. So this is pretty much going to turn into a national conflict. All right. And if you go back to that movie Civil War, the reason why there was war in the streets was because of that same political divide. And the president in the movie, he was a complete authoritarian, and the whole country was under full authoritarianism. So they were predicting in that film, and we're seeing the direction that things are heading in right now as we speak. With him already setting the stage, moving troops to these various cities. You know, he done sold up DC already. Said that he was sending troops over to Memphis. And then he's talking about cities like Chicago. He's going to send in the troops over to Chicago. You already got ICE in these cities doing what they're doing. So this is definitely a totalitarian development. So let's take a listen to this real quick.
Run most of the cities that are in bad shape. We have many cities in great shape too, by the way. I want you to know that. But it seems that the ones that are run by the radical left Democrats, what they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very...
And all those cities that he's just named, if you just go do a Google search and type in the 10 most dangerous cities in America right now. None of those cities even come up in the top 10. Even though Chicago is wild, but Chicago, their crime hasn't been as because we're used to seeing genocide, with the gangs over there. But even as of late, their crime hasn't been as high as normally. So them cities are not even in the top 10 when you look it up. St. Louis is up there. Memphis is up there. New Orleans is up there. Detroit is up there. Baltimore is up there. So obviously it's political. All right.
Unsafe places, and we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war too. It's a war from within. Controlling the physical territory of our border is essential to national security. But I want to salute every service member who has helped us carry out this critical mission. It's really a very important mission. And I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military. Because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor, stupid governor, stupid.
Using American cities as training grounds for the United States military. That was part of President Trump's partisan address yesterday to hundreds of America's top military leaders at a Marine Corps base in Quantico, Virginia. Joining us now, MSNBC contributor Mike Barnicle, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant General Mark Hergling. Good morning to you both. General, I'll start with you and just your reaction. I'm sure you've talked to some of your old colleagues, maybe who were in the room or some who just watched at home. What was the reaction to that spectacle yesterday?
Yeah, Willie, I did talk to a few. Many people in that room I've served with. I didn't retire that long ago, so some of those senior members were junior members when I was still in the service. What was interesting is it came about in two parts. First of all, Secretary Hegseth's address. I took notes as he spoke, as I was watching it. And just some of the things that I made bullet points about were Liberation Day, kill things and break people, or kill people and break things, war crimes, Geneva Convention elimination, rules of engagements are unnecessary, suggesting women can't meet the standards, returning to the days of drill sergeants smoking recruits during basic training, suggesting the elimination of IG actions, especially as he's being investigated for the use of signal apps by those IGs. Hawking his own book at the end, The War on Warriors, I've read, and it's a compilation of thoughts from a disgruntled soldier who has very little understanding of strategic implications of various actions. Then when it turned to the president, you've already addressed this, meandering. Just all sorts of issues, much like the UN speech he gave. So many things to talk about from that speech, but the war from within, as you just mentioned, and putting soldiers on American streets to train how to react to different enemies from within were two of the highlights that I wrote down.
And that would basically make you Jakes in those streets in them cities. That would make you target practice for the military. That's essentially what is being insinuated. So you better believe, because Esau, Esau, he hates you, so he'd be willing to do that. And yeah, it's illegal, but what are they doing about it? We're coming into that time of trouble, man. And none of you Jakes out there, none of you are hedged in this time that we're coming into.
And it was just a combination of two things that I believe were leading to what we might see next. And the other thing I'd say is...
And what we might see next is going to be some kind of pushback from within. There's going to be some level of incorporation from within. Some sort of resistance, because, that crowd, they were real quiet, man. They didn't look too enthused listening to these two. And that helps me to bring in this scripture that there's going to be a point in time, because you're going to have the Edomites that want to preserve the Constitution and honor, what's contained in the Geneva Convention. People that's going to, like, hey, man, these are tax-paying civilians. What are we doing? No, we can't do that. We can't go against the grain. And then you're gonna have those that are, they're loyalists to the current administration and even the Zionists. So that's a divide, man. They have two opposing interests that are all within the same department. So this is 2nd Ezra 15 in the GNT, starting at the 14th verse. It says, "The world and the people in it are doomed. The war that will bring their destruction is very near. Nations will arm themselves and fight against other nations. There will be great political turmoil, just like in that movie Civil War, with one group trying to overpower another and gain control while ignoring the legitimate government." And that's the sedition. That's what you're gonna have, those that's gonna say that the hell with your orders. You're going against the grain. This is illegal. This isn't patriotic American policy, if you will. That's what these some of these Edomites. That's their sentiment. All right, so there's going to be fighting from within. That says there will no longer be free access to the cities because the struggle for power will bring destruction, terror, and total confusion wherever people live. It's not going to be safe. It's going to be very deadly. There's going to be war in these streets. And Jake, you're going to be caught in the crossfire. All right, serious, like you, because both sides, despite their difference, you're still their common enemy. Jake is to blame for everything. So it's gonna get real, man. But this is a retired lieutenant general, and he's basically coming out and saying that what Trump and them is doing, this is illegal.
President Trump thrives on applause and cheering and interactions with an audience, and when he didn't get that and instead got quiet professionalism from the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines in the audience, that likely rattled them from the very beginning. And that silence wasn't disrespect. It was restraint and discipline and adherence to the oath of office. Yesterday was, to me, a collective reminder of our professional culture that we have in the military that transcends politics. It was on full display, and it was interesting to watch from both sides of the audience.
It was the oath to the Constitution, not to.
And not only that, but it's actually embarrassing. That was total embarrassment. And this type of thing, it makes this country vulnerable, which is good because the Lord, the Lord would this is the Lord's doing. All right, the scriptures talk about there will be no healing of thy bruise. It's like an open wound that's untreated, and it's not getting no ointment, no treatment. That's literally the stage that Babylon is in right now. Let's go to Nahum 3, and I believe it's like the 19th verse. And it says, "There is no healing of thy bruise, thy wound is grievous. All that hear the bruit of thee shall clap their hands over thee. For upon whom have not thy wickedness passed continually?" And the fact that this whole thing was broadcasted, internationally. So that means that even these other world leaders got to see that. So So they're seeing that the leader of their nation is addressing that they have an enemy from within. So how are you on point to go to war when you can't even get it together in your own house? You know? And that's quite embarrassing. And the Lord did say, let's go up to was it the 5th verse? Yeah, Nahum 3 and 5, it says, behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will shew the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. All right, and you know, basically the whole world is going to get to see the embarrassment. Let me read it in the Amplified. And it says, behold, I am against you, declares the Lord of hosts, and I will lift up your skirts over your face, and will let the nations look at your nakedness, O Nineveh, and the kingdoms at your disgrace. All right? And it is a disgrace that you're going to use your own military against your own civilians. What are you doing? That's against the Geneva Convention, and that's agreed upon through all nations. But right now, Babylon, following under the orders of the Zionists, they don't care anymore, because they're even breaking policy with what they're doing in Palestine. So you can tell that they no longer care about what the world says anymore. It says, I will throw filth on you and make you vile and treat you with contempt and set you up as a spectacle. You know, everybody's got their eyes on Babylon, and they're just seeing, you know, they're not organized. They're divided. They got all these scandals that they keep trying to hide. They're looking at the moral decay. They're looking at the health, the ideologies. Babylon is a straight cesspool. And look at how they're talking down to the men who risk their lives on the line, you know, for their country. And basically telling them, hey, if you still want to get down, you got to disregard what you've been fighting for all this time, or what you think you were fighting for, because really you've been fighting for the interests of the international banking families. That's literally all these wars that these veterans, these you know, servicemen have been fighting. You've been fighting the battle of the elite. You are not fighting for your country. That's newsflash. And some of them have woken up to that, which is why they're no longer serving. But you still have a lot of those that are either clueless or they fighting because they don't have nothing else. And this is a way for them to you know, generate a living, an income to take care of their families or whatever. But this is embarrassing, and these world leaders in other nations, they get to see this. So let's finish listening to a little more, and we'll close in a minute.
The man standing in front of them. So can you speak, General, just for people watching this morning who have so much coming at them 24 hours a day, why this you view as so unusual and so dangerous to be talking about using American cities as, quote, training grounds for the American military, and having the United States military go in and effectively do domestic policing of gangs and whatever else Donald Trump wants them to do?
Well, primarily, Willie, is because it's illegal, and it violates our oath of office to defend the Constitution, which says the military is not to be used. Specifically, that was put in the Constitution against securing American streets, other than when there is an insurrection within the Republic, which President Lincoln saw. But the indications are people are asking us to prepare to do that. So that means there's measures afoot to try and make that happen. Because I don't see it, and you can bet that all the 400 or 800 people in that audience, the generals and the senior enlisted advisors, don't see it either. And many of them have seen conflict. They have been involved in war. They know what it's like, and they also know you don't take up arms against innocent civilians, especially ones in the United States who are executing their First Amendment rights of free speech and protesting against the government.
General, I don't know whether you've seen the front page of the Wall Street Journal today. I'm now holding it up on camera. There's a photo shot of the front rows of many of the former members, your former friends in the military, sitting there watching and listening to the spectacle yesterday. And I, too, spoke to several of your colleagues, former colleagues, yesterday. And the word I kept hearing from them was embarrassment. Because if you look at that picture and you listen or have viewed what happened yesterday in Quantico, you saw myriad numbers of Silver Star awards. You saw myriad Purple Hearts, Bronze Stars, Combat Infantry badges, and they were being lectured on how to do push-ups and lose weight and shave. And it was truly mortifying. But the larger question is, going forward, what happens to the military in this country when there's so much disarray within the building, the Pentagon, where the Defense Department is housed, and various components of the military around the globe, with this internal dissension that you can seemingly feel when you witness an event like yesterday?
Yeah, it struck me too, Mike, that when you look at those faces, it's what I predicted when I was on the show the other day, and that you're going to get poker faces and a stoicism that was reflective of professionalism. But truthfully, those individuals will leave that room or left that room yesterday, and they'll start discussing and analyzing how they can implement some of the lawful orders that they got. Okay, great. We can buck up the standards. We can take a look at the kinds of things to get some soldiers, not all, certainly not even the majority, back in better shape. Take a look at what our ranks look like. But there were also soldiers and all ranks of services in that audience that said, wait a minute, when they were writing down the same kind of checklist that I was writing down, saying, wait a minute, we can't do that, or we shouldn't do that, or this is a true violation of what we are as professionals, or, hey, I've got women in my ranks who are performing admirably. Why should I kind of lump them all together like the secretary did? Or I'm certainly now going to debate with myself, what am I going to say if I'm asked to go on the street and conduct illegal actions? And I guarantee you that the people in that...
In other words, these higher ranking military officials, generals, lieutenants, colonels, etc., they're murmuring. After that whole meeting, they were murmuring, heavy murmuring. There's a conflict of interest there. And that's I'm pretty sure that's leaving them in some sort of confusion. So that right there, that just the fact that this is being displayed on a global level shows the embarrassment. And this is the Lord's doing. He's lifting up the skirts on this place. All right, let all the nations look at your nakedness and the kingdoms at your disgrace. Let me look up that word. Quala 1. And it says, shame, disgrace, dishonor, ignominy of nation, dishonor, disgrace. Yeah, public shame or disgrace, humiliation, embarrassment. All right, and that's what we're seeing. And guess what? Babylon, despite what these devils are trying to do by trying to strengthen the military, still going to lose. All right, you're not going to win the ultimate war. All right, it's already set in stone. It's already written. There's nothing that you can really do. All right, it's all in vain. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. All right, and the Lord's going to stir up the Medes and all of his allies, and they're going to prepare them arrows against you. It just says what it is. You're going to try to go to war with the angels when the Lord show up, and you're just going to get obliterated. It just is what it is. All right, but this is total embarrassment. But this is going to lead to more divide in the country, which is going to ultimately lead to, war. And matter of fact, this is what I'm going to do. Let's go to Isaiah 19 in the GNT. Yeah, this is Isaiah 19:2. It says, the Lord says, I will stir up civil war in Egypt and turn brother against brother and neighbor against neighbor. Rival cities will fight each other and rival kings will struggle for power. I'm going to frustrate the plans of the Egyptians, these Babylonians, these Americans, and destroy their morale. People are becoming more hopeless. There's going to be more hopelessness in the streets. People abandoning their faith. People no longer trust, what the future holds. They will ask their idols to help them, and they will go and consult mediums and ask spirits of the dead for advice. So yeah, this place is through. So yeah, and then you go in the comment section, a lot of people, they all saying the same thing. This is illegal, it's unconstitutional. The lady here said he treated our highest generals like toddlers, shameful. My father was a Marine and didn't fight for this country for this man to F it all up. Yeah, they in uproar, man. He said, I was not embarrassed. I was enraged at the lack of respect for these brilliant men and women. How shameful that they were called from their important posts to listen to this garbage. These people swear allegiance to our Constitution, not a drunk and a clown. This event was broadcast internationally. This was an embarrassment for the United States. See? That's what I'm saying. And I get it. This is all to basically do a not only a temperature check, but also a filter, a military filter, to see who's going to remain, who's going to be loyal, who's willing to basically go against, societal norms and, uphold the oath that they originally are up under. This is not a regular, normal administration here. This is what they're showing you. They want to get the moles up out of there, which is understandable. I wouldn't have them in my military either. I wouldn't have women in my military either. But they're definitely going against the grain with this, and it's going to cause division. So we already know what comes next. And this is just the beginning of the fall of this place. And, the Lord is just lifting up the skirts for all the world to see. So anyway, I'm going to end right there. I'm going to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh Shai, and to the next one, Shalom.